Hello again. We have another batch of the worst woke religion TikToks. This is my least favorite category of TikTok, even more than the weird people jiggling around and the groomers preaching all sorts of sex stuff to kids. So without further ado, let's take it away.
One of the things that pushed me off of Christianity initially was how unchristian most Christians are. The Republican Party, or evangelicals in general, resemble far more the Pharisees in the Bible than Jesus themselves. Like, that is like probably the most consistent theme that I've seen throughout all of my experience with Christian communities in the United States. Almost ubiquitously, these would be the same type. Like, if Jesus came back today, like, I think that the average evangelical would call him a loser progressive hippie that was like being too soft on poor people, like 100%.
Yeah, there might be some truth to that. I think the argument, you Christians, you're the worst example of your religion. I love the Christianity, but I don't love the Christians, or whatever. It's really trite nonsense that is just kind of a cope, I think, for atheists who don't want to deal seriously with religion or their spiritual life. But he's got something of a point. He's not naming exactly which denominations or sects or breakaway groups. There are a lot of mistaken conceptions of Christianity in the United States. Modern 1980s style American capitalism, that's the ideal of Christian life. No, I don't think it's quite that. I mean, the word capitalism, by the way, was popularized by Karl Marx. So no, obviously not. The problem that America suffers from right now is that Christianity does not suffuse enough of the American spirit. America was founded as a Christian nation by all of the men who founded it, going all the way back to 1620 in the Mayflower, 1630, Governor John Winthrop, Shining City on a Hill, model of Christian charity, going up to 1776, and the Constitution, John Adams saying that the principles which united the fathers of the country were the general principles of Christianity agreed upon by every sect. So it's a Christian nation, there's no question about that. But Christianity has waned in public life, and certain people, especially those who have a kind of corrupted understanding and practice of the faith, are grasping and are wanting. That's true. It might not even necessarily be their fault. They might sincerely be missing some part of the picture here. That's true. They should work on that. I sort of agree. Big tech is more powerful than most countries are. They profit by exploiting your personal data. It's time to put a layer of protection between your online activity and big tech. That's why I use ExpressVPN. Think about how much of your life is on the internet. Well, unfortunately, every website you visit, every video you watch, every message you send gets tracked and data mined. When you run ExpressVPN on your device, the software hides your IP address, something big tech can use to personally identify you. So ExpressVPN makes your activity harder to trace and sell to advertisers. ExpressVPN also encrypts 100% of your internet data to keep you safe from hackers and eavesdroppers on your network. What I like most about ExpressVPN is how simple it is to use. Download the app on your phone or computer, tap one button, and you are protected. ExpressVPN does all of this without slowing your connection. That's why it's rated the #1 VPN service by TechRadar, The Verge, and most importantly of all, Michael Knowles. Go to expressvpn.com/MichaelYT. Get 3 extra months for free. Okay, next one.
Unpopular opinion. God is pro-choice. Never in humanity has God stripped us of our ability to choose. We see this in Genesis chapter 2, when God places Adam in the midst of the garden and presents all of his best options to him, but does not remove the most destructive choice. In fact, God commands Adam not to eat of this forbidden tree and does not remove the ability for him to choose it. Why is this significant? Because God is more concerned with our desire to choose him than he is with the legislation of righteousness. So while God may be grieved at every single abortion, he is equally concerned about the heart posture of the one who has to choose.
Okay, a very bad argument, but I could see how this lady would fall into it. God gives man free will, and we see this in the Garden of Eden when God says, don't eat from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, but you still have free will, so you have the ability to make that choice if you so wish. And then what happens? Adam and Eve eat the apple, and then what happens? God casts them out of paradise, and from the sweat of their brow, they have to eat their, that's how they'll sustain their bodies until they die, because sin and death have pervaded the world now, and things get really, really bad really, really quick. So yeah, there are consequences to that. Yes, there is a law in the Garden of Eden. There is a commandment, actually. God says, do not eat the fruit of that tree. And then Adam breaks that commandment, and then he is punished for that. Much as we say, okay, no abortions. because killing is wrong.
That's okay, officer. I think they learned murder is wrong.
People still have the ability to have an abortion, and then there will be a punishment for that. The fact that people have free will doesn't mean that they are free from consequence or punishment or law, especially when we're talking about murder here. She seems to even be kind of granting that abortion is tantamount to murder. And she says, yeah, but even so, man has to have the right to do it. No, man doesn't have the right to do that. And in fact, then what's the next crime that we see in the Bible? Right after Genesis chapter 2. Adam and Eve's son, Cain, kills his brother Abel. And then what happens? The blood cries out to God for justice. Abel's blood from the ground cries out to God. And then does God say, well, I'm sorry, my hands are tied here because you see Cain had the choice. It's his choice, and I'm so pro-choice and everything. No, actually, God puts a mark on Cain and banishes him, and he has to wander around the earth until the end of his days. I've actually heard similar arguments made, though, not even just by crazy libs, but even by libertarians who say, well, it's just very important that we all have choice. Sure, you have choice in as much as you have an ability that cannot be, and you have a spiritual freedom as well, by the way. Even if you're imprisoned and tied up and, chained to the wall, you still have this spiritual ability and mental ability to think as you will think and believe as you will believe. But that doesn't mean that you're free from all restrictions of civil society. It doesn't mean that there's no such thing as a civil authority or the moral law or right and wrong. And the reason that the civil authority has power and why the authority wields the sword and does not wield it in vain is because there is a difference between good and bad and right and wrong. And it is not only the right of the civil authority, but the responsibility to encourage the good stuff and discourage the bad stuff. I hope I have encouraged those TikTokers. I'll tell you, I kind of actually didn't mind those. The Destiny one was a little bit trite, but I think he was talking about it sincerely, and he had a point. I think he actually had something of a fair point. And then the gal at the end made a really, really bad argument, but she might have been making that argument sincerely. I mean, I've heard libertarians fall into the same trap as that crazy far-left liberal is, that the very fact that man has free will implies that man should be free from all legal or social constraints, which obviously does not follow and would lead to the complete destruction of mankind sooner rather than later. But I could see how she'd fall into that. So hers was the worst one. But maybe she'll watch this video and be corrected. We'll see you next time.
Sin and death have pervaded the world.